Okay, so now I've got all my stuff ready to go. Of course, I'm gonna trip over stuff, that's how it always works. I've got my paper back here, and so I just feel like it's gonna be easier for you to see what I'm doing if I do it kind of like an easel scenario. So the first thing that I'm gonna do is work over this paper here, because as I start to apply ink and things like that, it's probably gonna make a mess all over. So I'm just gonna add a thin coating of the tempera paint to the apple. Start with red first. You want to move pretty quickly with this, because if it starts to dry out on the surface, you're not going to be able to get a very decent print off of that. That works out pretty well. I think I'm going to go ahead and add just a little bit more red to one side, and then try to change some colors. I usually tell the kids to use a different brush for each color. And you'll notice that it's kind of starting to go inside, right? That's why it's important to make sure that you don't have a lot of ink on there, otherwise it's going to be kind of messy and you're not going to be able to get a clean print. So I'm going to try a little bit of turquoise on the other side, and I don't want to brush it on too much. So I encourage the students to experiment with this and try out some different fades and things. And this is a good segue into color study too, because they'll start to see how different colors mingle and what they make. Ooh, like a little, okay, kind of interesting. Got a little seed on that one, so let me go ahead and make one more print there. So this all works by like transferring the ink off the surface onto here, right? Do some stars now. Let's see, I'll go ahead and do a black star to start with. And again, just trying to get a small amount of this ink on here, not much. And if I want to change colors, I can use like a wet paper towel, wipe these off, or I can rinse them under the sink. I encourage my students to try things like ghost prints, because that's where you don't add more paint and it gets lighter and lighter and lighter. And sometimes you get like a really nice value gradation that way. I'm kind of liking the way that goes. Cool. All right, so let's try this carrot thing. I'm just gonna push all those carrots down really well, so I have a pretty good flat surface. And again, I'm gonna try kind of like a, let's see, kind of a two-tone type thing. Yeah, let's get some red on there. Still not sure what this is gonna do. And sometimes I encourage the kids to, move it around on the surface too. Be fun for them. With this one, I'm probably gonna add a lot of paint, just because I wanna make sure I have a good imprint. And I'm pushing pretty hard on this one, just to make sure that I get kind of some interesting stuff. It kind of looks like a flower. It's kind of cool. Try that one more time. In here. Okay. So let's go for some green on this X here. So again, if you're using the sponge, wet it just a little. If you wet it too much, it's really not going to work for you, because it'll thin down the paint. We don't really want that to happen. So I'm going to go ahead and add enough paint to that to where I feel like it's going to look pretty good. And I'm just going to press it onto the surface. And again, I like the sponge because it has a little bit of give to it. I'll change a little bit of color here and add more turquoise over the top of that green, just to see how that responds and behaves. You can see this is very messy, right? Got ink all over my hands, so again, that's why we like to use tempera paint as such. Washes much better than anything else. That one I got a little too much paint. You can see what happens when that is the case. Let's see, we'll go with a red circle. Kind of a boring circle, so maybe what I'll do is I'll change that color up a little bit. Drop some turquoise around the outside or one side or whatever. It'd be kind of fun. Ooh, I like that pretty well. I think I'm gonna make a ghost print. You'll get another pattern going on up here. Okay, I think I'm ready to try a little bit more with this X here. Add some black to the tips. Kind of see how that looks. Notice I didn't choose any pink or yellow, right? I really wanted bold, darker colors, so that's why I chose red, blue, black, green. I feel like I've got my page kind of filled up, but again, this is kind of a nice exercise in just practicing patterning, things like that. Kids seem to get into that pretty well. I'm gonna go ahead and get into the leaves here shortly. I'm gonna do one more apple print. I'm really liking the pattern that I have on that one. Get some of that excess paint off of there. Let's see. Digging this turquoise thing, but maybe I'll try a little bit of green on the edge. Complementary colors. Might get some brown in the middle, but you can see what happens. Where should I put it? I got a little room up here. Yeah, I like that really well. So a lot of times I'll have students make wrapping paper like this, or they'll make like a whole patterned out page like this, and then we'll do something over it, like maybe make more subject matter. So I think that print's done. I'm gonna go ahead and try some of these natural objects now. And this is kind of a different way of working in that we have to make sure that we get a good deal of paint on here fairly rapidly, and so I like to lay it down on top of a piece of newsprint like you can see here. And you can see I'm working quickly again because I don't want this paint to dry on this dry leaf. And honestly, this typically works better if you work on like the table as opposed to what I'm going to be doing where I work actually on the easel upright. So we'll see how it goes. I don't know. I'm going to give my best attempt at this. Usually what I like to have the kids do when they do this is take a sheet of scrap paper like this, kind of lay it over. I'm going to go ahead and lay it very carefully on my surface. I'm going to try not to move anything. I just want to rub over the back of this as best I can. Again, I hope it comes out well. It would do a lot better on the table. But you can see that by doing that with the paper, I have made it to where, I've made it to where a lot of that excess ink that I had on my hands didn't end up on our paper. So it looks like I could probably pull another good one there. Try the back side of this. Push a little harder this time. Try to get more of that ink off. Traditionally, we'd use a press, but that's very expensive. Most schools are not going to have that. All right, I'll try some of these little fern guys right here. Let's see. We need some turquoise, I think. Yeah, let's try that out. Now, again, I'm going to paint a lot. I'm going to get a lot of ink on this because I really want it to hold a lot of ink. I'm going to try to do the same scenario where I trap it down and smooth it over. It's really important you do that, otherwise it's going to move on you. You're not going to have very much clarity in your print. That one came out super sweet, and I got a proof off. Let's try the other little guy, but we'll try him in green perhaps. If you have tiny little thin elements like this, you really do want to load them up with a good deal of paint. And then pull that off so that there's good transfer. Got a pretty excellent garden this summer, and some of the nice leaves of like sage and rosemary and different tomato leaves. Oh, that one looks cool. Be interesting to see how that goes. I'm going to try that out. A little proof off there, pretty cool. And let's see, what else do I want to try? Well, I got one more. Let's do a two-tone. Do red on half. Kind of running out of paper here to paint on anyway. We'll do blue on the other half. See what that looks like. Okay, kind of like this downward flow thing I've got going on here, so I might continue that pattern. Ooh. I think the other side looks better than the side that I printed. Try that one more time on the bottom. Let's see if I can get a good ghost print out of that. I think I'm pretty happy with that. Cool. Yeah, stick a star on there. Just cause I'm feeling like it. Why not? Put some good blue there. I'm really digging this nice turquoise color. Put a little bit of red on there, just to make it interesting. Like gold star or something. No, I guess turquoise star, right? Boom. Nice work. And boom. Nice work. Okay. Have fun, happy printmaking. There's a lot of really cool things you can do with printmaking, depending on what you can find to ink up. So experiment, have fun with it. I look forward to seeing what you guys come up with.